Hey boys, we are back live, and this is my 5th edition for Let's Talk Random. It's not sort of in its own playlist, so it's in Let's Talk Random. It's sort of like its thing where I'm just, talking about random things that come to mind or just things I would prefer to talk about. So, yeah, I mean, as we were continuing in the other comment section of the live stream, yeah. In terms of, the ancient sites, I know Elberton, Georgia has one. Of course, it's not been here for thousands of years. Try more like 30. No, actually 40 years. 1980 to now, it's, I think, 40 years. Or 39 years, somewhere around that time. The Georgia Guidestones in Elberton. Look it up. It's something that's quite interesting. I'm going to go back and get Sparky and see if he's able to join us again. Let me see here.
Start over here. We're going to do some switching. We're going to get everything situated, and then we're going to go over.
Oh, wait a minute. Yes, the Beaver River Bridge is, I think, the name of that bridge, right? I looked it up once, and I think that's the name of it. Don't quote me on it, but yeah, I remember that bridge. That's the CSX main line, and I think it's actually on the Ohio side of the river. Please don't quote me on that, because I probably am so wrong on it. Okay, I'm just pointing that out there. Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to change that because I never saved the original photograph. Which also brings me to another thing. I don't know if anyone who's watched my channel knows this, but I've gotten into photography recently, and I've actually gotten a request from this place here, the Madison Gallery in downtown Madison, Georgia. I showed I guess you could say curator there, some of my photographs that I had taken recently, and the curator was an older lady, I think around my grandmother's age, if not slightly older, no offense, but I showed her some of my photographs, and she was actually impressed, because I've been taking the photographs recently on this phone that I'm streaming on right now, and she was kind enough to give me her email address so I could send her some photographs to her to Gmail, to like the store she works at, and I sent them, but I never got a reply back also, but she was kind enough to give me a form I could fill out if I wanted to where, if I was wanting to sell some of my photographs as like prints, that I could. I'm curious if I should take this chance. I wouldn't mind doing it for an income thing, but I still want to keep the photography like my YouTube channel. I do it as a hobby. I've been wanting to try and find a way to make a video for my YouTube channel that just shows my photographs. But I don't know how I could do it, though. That's the thing. I mean, I know everyone dreams of owning their own business. I don't know if I can make the photography a business, though, because, frankly, I go and photograph when, I feel like it. And I don't want other people, making me have to go out and photograph 24/7. I mean, I don't want to, down people's spirits, but this stuff doesn't come easily. A battery only lasts so long before it dies out. Same can be said for the creative spark, so to speak. It only lasts so long before, it dies out, and you just have to give it a while before it gets, kicks back in. I don't even know if you guys have seen some of my prints. Okay, I don't know if any of y'all have even seen them. I've shown a few from Edisto, but that was on my camcorder. Some of my photographs that are actually really good, that people have said good, is actually photos I've taken of plants, mainly flowers, as crazy as it sounds. I don't know if I could even... I don't know if I could make a video that even shows the photographs. I've seen them on YouTube before, but I don't know if they allow you to make it. But, yeah. Just like to explore favorite and rich discoveries. No, I am live. Let me see here. But yeah, going back to my interest in vintage things. Let me open my playlist section in a new tab. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm scratching like nobody else's business, 'cause my head is itching like mad. Sorry, I mean, sometimes it's like an itch that just never goes away, and it's annoying. And I'm meaning that in a metaphorical sense. Oh, also, here, let me, firstly get my live stream up. Let me refresh my channel thing, because that's a bit of an issue. Ah, I hate it. Once you scratch it, it just gets worse, and you have to scratch again. Can you believe it? Open like a new tab. Gonna have to mute the stream because it's gonna be a bit of a problem. Never mind, it's already muted on my computer, so that's good. That's good. Y'all check out this stuff. This is all vintage stuff I'm like. I say vintage stuff, but it's more along the lines of anything I see that's really old, or in this case, well, vintage. I know a bit about what some of this older stuff is, but yeah. Now, y'all are more than welcome to spread the word about the stream now, alright? I'm just letting you know on that accord. Try again. It should. Well, if it doesn't open on your phone, I'll tell you how to go to there. If go from where, it says home on my channel over to playlists, or actually, no, go scroll down and to where I have it labeled as playlists showing the trips, time lapses, railroads, and vintage stuff I filmed. And it's the third playlist on that section. It has an image of an old gear on it. It's actually an old mill that I filmed in Helen, Georgia. It wasn't operating at the time. I wish I had called it when it was. It's the Nora Mill Granary. And it's been operating, I think, since it was, I think the owner said it's been operating since, I think, 1875. But, yeah, I've got a lot of, mainly what I've got now is a lot of, if you notice on that playlist, I've added video of the Chastity River Bridge and the Rutledge, Georgia's Railroad Depot, as well as everything I filmed at the Tennessee Valley Railroad Museum, because everything you see, they just don't make things like that anymore. They don't build things with this kind of quality. They don't build things to last anymore in general, and I hate it. That's why I'm happy when I see something really old that's still running or still able to do the job it's basically intended to do. I'm glad. It makes me happy, because it just shows, back then, people knew how to make something with enough quality that it would last for years, even after they're already long gone. Heck, there's stuff that's steam powered that was built like well over 100 years ago, still doing its job flawlessly. Albeit, with a lot of restoration, but yet it still works. It still works. Can you believe that? That's what amazes me about all of that. It really amazes me just to see old equipment and machinery and all still working. And I'm having an odd occurrence right now because it says on my phone there's 5 people who are on. Yet in participants on my computer there's only 2. Why is that? I want to know now. And also, oh, shout out to Kiwi Vintage Rail, by the way. Open link in new tab. Subbing back. Shout out to Kiwi British Rail. Thank you for subscribing. I don't know if you're seeing this video right now, but if you are, thank you. Thank you very much. And good luck on your layout, from what I can see. Also, I love the channel banner. Is that a... you may have to let me know what the type of locomotive class it is, because I may know a little bit about some diesel locomotives here, but I don't know anything about what British diesel locomotives are classified as. I think the only, British locomotive I know of is I think the Deltic. The diesel that was built in like the 60s to replace steam. One of the things I like about the UK and Britain mainly is they still use steam up until like 1907. I mean, into like I think the early 70s and even like real early, I think 80s, as crazy as it sounds. You know something, in America, here in the US, there was still a few railroads that still use steam up with, I think, the last one still using revenue freight steam in like until 1986. And I think it was called the Crab Orchard and Egyptian, headquartered out of Marion, Illinois. It started out as a tourist hauler in the 70s, and by 1978 they became a fully operational, I think, short line freight railroad, and they still use steam. And they retired their first locomotive, number 5, in I think the late 70s, and then they used a 280 engine number 17. And thanks to it continuing to operate until 1980, late 1986, it was preserved. Both engines are in preservation, with I think the number 5 being restored to operation. Unfortunately, 17 is stuffed and mounted in Boone, Iowa. I'd love to contact the Crab Orchard and Egyptian and ask them, could y'all buy back your steam locomotive, please? It's currently rusting at a museum. I'd love to see that sucker restored and operating, because it has the distinction of being, I think, the only freight hauling steam locomotive that was left running in the United States when it was retired. It wasn't doing it for no photographs or anything. It was hauling legitimate freight. Kiwi British Rail, stay in the chat for a minute. I want to send you this. Crab Orchard and Egyptian Railroad number 17. British Rail, I know you guys had steam running until 1986. You might want to check this out. Click the links I'm going to be sending in the description. There's going to be 3 of them. Here's the first. Here comes the second. And that's the wrong thing. And here is the third. Much of this is all film shot from, like, I think the 1980s. And that's a locomotive. In those films, it was hauling revenue freight trains. It wasn't doing it for cameras, really. It was doing it in revenue service. when the Crab Orchard and Egyptian bought it, they never used it for passenger tourist operations. It was only used for freight right up until it was retired. And the thing that sidelined it was like a mechanical failure, as crazy as it sounds. It's, I think, dry pipe collapsed. I mean, but that amazed me. And to think, I had no idea about the engine until fairly recently, like a few months ago. And in case you're wondering, the engine is preserved. Heck, both of the Crab Orchard and Egyptian steam locomotives, numbers 5 and 17, are both in preservation. As I said before, Crab Orchard and Egyptian 280 number 17 is on display in Boone, Iowa. And Crab Orchard and Egyptian number 5 is, I think, now St. Louis and Iron Mountain Railroad number 5, and it's currently being restored to operation. I wonder if I should give them a call and ask them, could you buy 17 and restore it? That'd be nice to see. Only problem, I don't know if there's any of 280s that have a reusable dry pipe by chance. But that is amazing that there is even film footage of this thing running in the 80s, and it's incredible to see. Oh, sorry, I thought you lived in Britain. My mistake, man. I didn't know you lived in New Zealand. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, I get countries confused. I mean, British Rail, when I see British Rail, I thought, okay, you live in Britain. I didn't, sorry, I'm just saying, don't hate me for it. Please. Oh. But you need to see, I do recommend watching them. You can watch them right quick. Because I'm actually watching the video, one of the videos I sent right now. Crab Orchard and Egyptian 280 number 17 is the title. And I will send the video again. I know it's already probably in here, but the video I'm currently watching of Crab Orchard and Egyptian number 17 is this one. This link right here that I just sent. So I do recommend everyone in the stream watching these, because this is rare. I think by 1986, this was the only, freight hauling steam locomotive left. I don't know of any others that could have still been running in America that were still hauling freight, in revenue service. This, I think, was the only one. Yeah, the engine ran in freight service on the Crab Orchard and Egyptian between Marion and Orville, Illinois from 1979 to 1986. C79, 80, 81, 82, 83, 84, 85, 86. 8 years. 8 years of steam. I love it. See you, Apollo. And also, I do recommend listening to the whistle on this thing. It's sort of a signature, really. Still amazes me every time I see this to think. What amazes me when I watch this film is that this really was in 1986, but the film almost looks like it was shot on, I think, 16 millimeter. I kind of wish it had been shot on a 16 millimeter movie film, because there was a few rail fans in the 1980s and 90s that, like Mike Eagleson, for example, he still shot trains in the 1980s with a 16 millimeter movie camera just to try and keep it more accurate, mainly with steam. Scrumptious Model Trains, what is up? I recommend watching the video I just put in the link. Same with you, Jamestown. This is something you might want to see. I don't know if y'all can hear this right now. I'm playing the video on my computer. You know, y'all can share my stream if you want. I don't mind it. The film, I think it's at some point in the 80s, probably if I had to guess, maybe 1980, I think. Yeah. Some of the first scenes were originally filmed in 1980. So I'm thinking it was filmed between the engine's final years of operation, which was probably between, I guess, the early 80s, which was pretty much basically the last 7 years of it running, 1980 to 1986. Because there is film of its last day in operation, but which the film ends right before it suffered the fatal mechanical failure that took it out of service. Kiwi British Rail. I don't know if I'll be able to come to Britain. With all the madness that's going on all over the world right now, I don't know if I'll be able to travel over to Europe. Believe me, I'd love to go to Europe because, heck, in Bosnia, I know Crab Orchard and Egyptian was America's last steam stronghold. Bosnia is Europe's only steam stronghold to this day. They're still mostly running steam in the mines there because they have coal out there. Also, here is the video that shows the engine's final operations. North Freedom trains, I don't know about that. I've not, you know, I've been as far as Alaska and Canada in Ontario, but I didn't do any rail fanning there in Ontario because I was there to see Niagara Falls. And I did film on the White Pass and Yukon route. In very rural areas, they still use steam in China, and that's rapidly falling. You know, Scrumptious, I think China still built steam locomotives until literally 2000, as crazy as it sounds. And I know they exported a few to museums over here for quite a few of them. And I think a few were bought by a few museums here. I know Iowa Interstate Railroad still operates a Chinese QJ type engine. I know Essex Valley has the Chinese engine built for the Knox and Kane, which was saved from, you know, its own ashes. There's, I think, one steam locomotive shed left in China that was filmed. I've subscribed to 2 YouTubers who've actually been documenting the steam locomotive operations in China and in Europe, Bosnia, Serbia, China. Even further out has great footage of the steam operations in China. I hope the Chinese government over there realizes, you know, that people will come over to their country and pay quite a bit of money to see these steam locomotives, because I think they're the only ones. I mean, I know there's a few places in the world that still uses steam for normal revenue service, but that's rapidly disappearing. But the thing is, I'd love to see it. I'd really love to see like, you know, China. There was a narrow gauge railroad up there that still uses steam. I think it's called the Exinbai or something. I don't know. Let me look it up here. Chinese steam. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm trying to, yeah, y'all, look here. Look at the link I'm sending in chat. You're joking. Look at the link I just sent. There was steam still running, and this is the vote. This video was filmed literally just a year ago. Literally just a year ago. That is amazing, though, that there is... Here's steam locomotive operations in China in 28, as of just a few months ago, January of 2018 in China, and that's in the coal pit in Sandoling. Forgive me if I'm saying that completely wrong. And YouTuber KOCHERS Berg TV, he also does film. He's the other YouTuber I've subscribed to. I don't know if they did end it, but there's rumors going around that that mine is closing, and so when it does close, the steam locomotive. So when that mine dies out, the steam engines will probably end up dying with it. In other words, having their fires drop. I don't know if they're going to be scrapped, but I hope the rail enthusiasts that keep making tours to go over there and film them, ask the companies to save at least one of the engines that they have filmed, because, I'm sure they'll save at least one, or someone will try to save at least one, because I'm sure even in China there's preservation movements for steam. I mean, I'm glad to see that steam has still been running over there for this long, and it was still being built out of all things. I honestly hope a few railroad museums over here. I'll say this, though. I honestly hope railroad museums over here contact the old steam locomotive sheds in China and ask them for some of the equipment they use to maintain the engines, because I'm sure it's not as different as what they would have used over here in the steam days. And keep in mind, I'll bet you what they used to maintain the locomotives in China was much harder to find over here than it is over there. I haven't been to the Netherlands. The only time I've ever gone out of the country was to the Bahamas, to Nassau. That's it. I mean, that's out at sea, of course, though, in terms of being out of the country. I've been to Canada, and twice. The first time was when we went to Victoria, British Columbia, on the White Pass and Yukon route. Someone already has. There's a narrow gauge Chinese locomotive that was exported to Britain. A British railroad group, a British Steam Heritage Railway bought one of the Chinese narrow gauge engines, and they're getting it restored. So I guess it's when new factory condition, which is nice. I'll say this. Yeah, UK buying a Chinese C2 for the Welsh Highland Railway. Yeah, here it is. This is the one I was just talking about. This is the Chinese narrow gauge locomotive, a C2 type, and it was bought by the Welsh Highland Railway for use on their steam railway in 2006, and this is the first, I guess you could say, sort of quote-unquote mainline run for the wheel frames, and I think they've regauged it to be the same narrow gauge width as what they have there. I mean, I'm glad to know that they have actually they at least bought one Chinese locomotive. I just hope that someone over here or anywhere else in Europe realizes, steam in China is on its way out, and I hope they do something to try and save some of them, because if there is a railroad preservation movement in China for steam, it should be with some of those who've been around the engines the most, in my opinion, because frankly, in my opinion, China, they should try to, they should realize that have become quite unique for still running steam locomotives, and people will travel from all over the world to see it. Okay, and it's something that could really benefit them, economically. I'm not saying they should just use the steam engines for a tourist trap per se. I mean, I'm glad they're still running, and I mean, I know they're one of the narrow gauge railways in China that still runs passenger service with steam is trying to turn it to go into like a sort of scenic railroad operation, and I hope it works because steam enthusiasts have chartered tours over to China to film these steam locomotives before they're gone, because you never know. One day they're there and the second minute they're scrapped. So, it's sort of a hit and miss kind of thing. It's kind of like rail fanning British Railways in the 1960s. You had to get it while you could or before the engines were cut up. Pretty much. You know what? Hang on, I'm trying to find it because the narrow gauge railroad I'm talking about is here, but I can't remember the name of it. Oh, also, here's one of the railroads in Bosnia/Serbia that I'm talking about here. The link to that is here in the live chat as well. Okay, you guys do need to check out all the links I'm sending, and they're worth looking at. Believe me. Okay, believe me. Shibangsai Railroad is the name of it. Here's a link to this video, and I do recommend watching all of these. This is something that really amazes me when I see it. To see steam running like now is incredible. It really is just beyond incredible. I mean, it's also electrically hauled, and there's a coal hauling railroad, but they still run steam, which is nice. Locomotive. There's no number, so I don't know what it would be identified as. I like the steam whistles on this railroad steam locomotives. They're just you wouldn't expect to hear them on a Chinese steam engine, yet it sounds like one you'd hear on an American locomotive, but at the same time it's not American. That's what amazes me about it. Apparently, it's an 080 type engine, if I'm not mistaken. In terms of the number, I can't tell what the number would be, but I do. Apparently, its design was made for really intense usage, industrial wise, because it does serve a coal mine too. But yeah, I'm kind of hoping the Welsh Highland, gets word that if they ever do start fully replace steam, I hope the Welsh Highland gets word of this and buys the remaining locomotives that are even still operable or even salvageable. Of course, then again, if there is any foundries that still build steam locomotives in China, they could probably request C2 type parts for the C2 type engine. And even some of the larger ones over here could probably get parts still, because if steam has ended in China so recently, then I'm pretty sure there's bound to be parts left.
Whatever that is, whoever you're talking to, exit.
Why?
Because there's something important I need to tell you.
Stream ends now, guys. See you later.